Hi all, welcome to this video as part of the risk and reward sharing in supply chain series. In this video, we'll be talking about how suppliers and retailers can share risk and increase supply chain profits using buybacks, right? So what buybacks do is buybacks or even returns. What buybacks and returns do is allow a retailer to return unsold inventory up to a specified amount at an agreed upon price. So if the manufacturer specifies a wholesale price C, the manufacturer specifies a wholesale price C and a buyback price B, the manufacturer can salvage units for SM dollars for anything the retailer returns, and the manufacturer has a cost V per unit for the cost of production, and the retail price is P. So anyway, we'll look at an example and you'll see. So these variables are similar to the ones that you had with the news vendor model, with P being the retail price, C being the cost of buying the item. But here, instead of just a single company buying the item and selling the item, you have the manufacturer and the supplier, or manufacturer and the retailer, or manufacturer and the supplier, however you want to look at it. And so you have to look at the profit not just for the manufacturer, not just for the retailer, but also for the manufacturer, right? And the expected manufacturing profit will not be just the number of units that are ordered by the retailer, but some of it will be subtracted because the retailer will potentially be sending back some of those items, and the number of items that the retailer will send back is the expected overstock at the retailer, right? Once you know the expected overstock, you know how many units this retailer will be sending back, and that was how many units the manufacturer will have to buy back, right? So let's calculate this. So let's take this example. So let's go back to the textbook example that we were going through here. So going back to the same music store example with all the same data that we had, assume that the supplier agrees to buy back any unsold discs for $3, even though any leftover disc at the end of the sales period is worthless. So what the retailer does is buys the disc for $5, sells it for $10, and if they are unable to sell it by the end of the season, they can give it back to the manufacturer for $3. So this is just like the salvage value that we've been looking at in all of the news vendor models, and that's exactly what this is. But as far as the supply chain is concerned, as far as the manufacturer is concerned, they are going to spend $3 getting the disc back, but they can't do anything with the disc anyway, so they're going to have to throw the disc out. So they are the ones who are going to take on the risk of throwing out extra discs, right? So that's something to keep in mind. So let's actually run this model. Let's see what the numbers are like, and then we'll come back and see some of the potential pitfalls. So I'm going to call this effect of vertical integration. So the first sheet, that's vertical integration. Now let's see buybacks. So let's see how the manufacturer and the retailer can make more money using buybacks, right? So I'm going to leave this piece as it is. So the first piece where nothing is vertically integrated, so let's keep it as it is. This is how much money they expect to make if nothing is vertically integrated. Now here we'll look at the buybacks case, right? So manufacturer is letting the retailer send some of the inventory back. So the mean demand is still 1000. The standard deviation is still 300. The just copy paste is the same numbers mostly. So the retailer is still going to sell the items for $10 and buy the items for $5. But the only difference now is that there is a salvage value, so the retailer can sell it back to the manufacturer for $3 a piece. What that does is the cost of understocking is still $5. You lose out on $5 potential profit by having one CD less. But having an extra CD now doesn't cost flat $5 anymore. It is now $2 because you're selling it for you're buying it for $5 and selling it back to the manufacturer for $3, right? So now the cost of understocking is 2, and so the critical ratio is 7.7413. You know what, in fact, maybe I should also have the other column here so we can compare the 100% vertically integrated fully. So this example of buyback is an example of partial vertical integration in the sense that they are separate companies, so they're not vertically integrated, but they are sharing some information, sharing some ideas so that they are able to, so things like buyback. So if you have some extra demand, so send it back. So by sharing some of the risk, they are trying to potentially increase the profits in the supply chain. All right. So that's the cost. So the critical ratio is 0.7413. The optimal order quantity is now 1,169, and the expected profit for the retailer is 4,286. That's the expected profit for the retailer. Now the expected profit for the manufacturer is not just $4 per TV per CD here. So it's $4 per CD times the number of CDs that they're selling, but they are going to buy back any extras, and they're going to buy it back at $3. So they're going to lose $3 on those CDs. So it's $3 times any of the expected overstock that you're going to have at the retailer. So the retailer is going to have an overstock of 223, and the manufacturer is going to buy it all back and pay $3 for it. So that's how much they're going to lose in profit. And there you go. So the total expected profit for this for the manufacturer is $4,008. The total expected profit for the retailer is $4,286. So the manufacturer is better off, the retailer is better off, and overall the supply chain is better off compared to the not vertically integrated scenario. But as far as the vertically integrated scenario, fully vertically integrated scenario is concerned, they're still not making as much money. They're still less than 100% vertically integrated scenario. So that's the best that you can do with the buybacks. But buybacks is one way in which the manufacturer can mitigate some of the problems with the retailer. So what happens here essentially is if there is no buybacks, because the cost of understocking and overstocking are equal, the amount of that the retailer orders is only 1,000, which means that there are only 1,000 CDs floating in the supply chain. So the supply chain is essentially undervalued because it has fewer than the number of units. The maximum number of units, optimal number of units that should be there in the supply chain is 1384. That is, when you have 100% fully vertically integrated, the optimal order quantity is 1384. That's the optimal number of units that should be floating around in the supply chain. But by doing buybacks, you are increasing it to 1169. So you are going up just a little bit. The retailer is making more money, the manufacturer is making more money, and the overall profit for the supply chain has also gone up significantly, right? But the problem with buybacks is that it's not always 100% good. There's always a push and pull here. So because the manufacturer is buying back some of these items, if the buyback price is pretty high, let's say that instead of $3, let's say that the manufacturer offers a buyback price of $4, right? So if the manufacturer says, okay, I'll sell you the CD for $5. If you can't sell it at the end of the season, I will give you back $4 for each CD. So now you'll notice that the wait, did I mess this up? So which way? Yeah. This should be. You'll notice that now the manufacturer is going to make less money. The retailer absolutely is going to make more money, but the manufacturer is going to make less than what they were making before because now they are taking on most of the risk. And that's the problem here. Can we make the overall profit more while making the manufacturer's profit and the retailer's profit more? Now, if I make this 5 out of 5, so let's say that, let's say I make it 499, just to. You're essentially saying that it's not going to be an understock. The overstock is going to be 863. You'll notice that the manufacturer makes so much less money, and the overall supply chain profit also plummets, even though the retailer is now going to make a really, really large share of the profit. Right? So if the manufacturer says, okay, fine, I'm selling it to you for $5, you take it. At the end of the day, if you cannot sell anything, I'll sell it back to me for $4.99. So essentially, the retailer is only losing 1 cent per CD if they are unable to sell it. in which case they are going to order a lot of items. So they're going to over order. So you don't want over ordering, you don't want under ordering. You want the ordering to be the right. So it's the Goldilocks sort of zone. You don't want too much or you don't want too little, right? Let me go back to the example. Right, and that's the idea. So this is what you can do with buybacks. So that's one thing you can do. I'll save this later. So here is some calculation that shows you the idea. So let's say that the wholesale price is $5 and you're looking at different buyback values. You'll notice that in some cases the supplier makes more in profit, in some cases the supplier makes less in profit, and in some cases the supply chain profit reduces, in some cases supply chain profit goes up. So here is something that the textbook says that's really interesting. So you'll notice that for a fixed wholesale price, as the buyback price increases, the retailer orders more and more and returns more. In our analysis, we have not considered the cost associated with the return. As cost associated with return increases, buyback contracts become less and less attractive. So there has to be a right. So if the buyback price is too little, then the retailer won't take advantage of it. If the buyback price is too high, then the manufacturers will start making a loss, or will make a loss compared to how much they could have made without the buyback contract. So it has to be in the right. So there has to be the, like I said, Goldilocks sort of price for buybacks. So that's something to keep in mind, right? And this is not something that's this is something that happens very common because, for example, book publishers do this a lot. You have to realize that book publishers publish books and they send it to, say, places like Barnes and Noble, and then Barnes and Noble has to sell the book. And especially with a lot of books, there's a lot of hype. The author goes out, gives interviews, people hear about it on the radio or on the television, or read about it in the newspaper. And so right when the book gets released, there's a lot of press that's done for the book, there's a lot of publicity that gets done for the book, and then the book sells like hotcakes for a while, or doesn't sell. Whatever happens, whatever sales the book is going to have, is going to happen in that first push, right? And then there's the second push. Usually what happens is they release a hardback, and then they have a push. Then 6 or 7 months later, maybe a year later, they release the same book in soft cover, and then they have another push for that. But anyway, in this selling season, if they're not able to sell it by that season, essentially the books won't get sold as much. So what happens with the publishers is that they also have to now take returns from the supplier, and the problem is they take returns from the supplier. Transporting books is costly because they can be huge, and putting them on trucks, carrying them, they're heavy, so it can be a huge cost. So what publishers usually tell places like Barnes and Noble is, if you're unable to sell the book by the end of the season, discount it and sell it. So discount it at a very high price and sell it, and we will pay you the discount, right? So that is one way to do a buyback contract, and that's something to keep. Anyway, so this is an example of a buyback contract. And so like I was talking about before, there are 3 ways in which you can share risk to go supply chain profits. We talked about buyback. I'm going to come back and we'll talk about revenue sharing in the next video. Take care.